What's up, guys? Thanks so much for clicking on the video. My name is Leah, and let's recap and review Real Housewives Ultimate Girls Trip Season 3, Episode 4. So I'm just going to let y'all know my voice probably seems weird or sounds weird. Well, it sounds weird to me, but like the weather is beating me down. Like 1 minute it's like 80 degrees outside, the next minute it's raining and pouring down like it's monsoon season, and my body can't keep up. So bear with me. But let's get into this review. All right, you guys, so before we get into it, we're gonna get a little spicy and talk about the tweets Candace sent out on the 30th when this episode actually aired. As a response to people pretty much siding with Portia when she said she was a journalist, when Candace was trying to explain that doesn't make sense. So she starts off the thread by saying, sigh, a thread. I spent a lot of time with my daddy, an MD with a medical degree from an accredited university when I was in college. I would visit him at his ER. I would shadow him with patients with permission, watch him triage and diagnose, and learned a lot about the medical field. Unfortunately, beloveds, shadowing a doctor does not make you a doctor. Standing next to a doctor for a few hours a day does not transfer a physician's knowledge via osmosis. Audacity will really have saints out here looking how they're looking. LOL, that is all. She continued by saying, also, degrees don't argue, they perch on the wall and speak for, in parentheses, me and themselves. Every time I think that we have transcended to a new echelon of mental prowess, 2 or 3 of you remind me that comprehension and intellect are simply not your ministries. We are not the same. Please stay down there. 2 things that we can guarantee from Candace is her making that triangle napkin to dab out her tear ducts and gather somebody via Twitter. I agree with everything she said, and I hope she puts her second to last statement on a shirt where it says degrees perch and they speak for themselves, because I will buy 2 or 3 of them. But it needed to be said because we're in an era of misinformation and people making false equivalents. Just because Portia was on Dish Nation on the group chat show, same for Tamar being on The Real. Y'all are not journalists. Y'all did not go to a 4-year accredited school and put in shadowing hours, project hours, writing articles, and going through the grueling process of trying to obtain this degree in order to call themselves journalists. For you to be calling yourself journalists, y'all were hostess. And there's nothing wrong with that. Y'all are people who were commentators, who gave their opinion on different things that were happening in the world. And there's nothing wrong with that, but don't make false equivalents. And that's what was said. And that's why Candace said what she needed to say. But let's get into this review. All right, y'all. So like I said in the intro, your girl ain't doing so hot, but I'm going to give you my best because that is what you deserve. But the episode opens up and we find out that it's day 4. Portia is going to be hosting majority of the day's festivities. We find out that Giselle is also hosting a Mardi Gras party at the end of the night. So we see a moment between Pepsi and Marisol and Alexia that was funny to me, the language barrier, because he ends up letting them know like, oh, we're going to have a traditional Thai barbecue, and he was trying to say pork, or he said pork, but it sounded like paw. And so Alexia and Marisol was like, huh? And he said pork, and they were like, oh my God, we thought you said paw. And I giggled. I giggled. The next scene we see is of Giselle and Portia walking down the hallway. We find out that I guess Giselle and a few of the other ladies were in the pool last night, and Portia was like, did you get naked? Because the girls on the other franchises, they love to get naked. The white girls love that. And Giselle's like, girl, I'm black, and no, nobody was gonna see my lady bits. And Portia was like, girl, you're a white black woman. And then Giselle's like, my dad's black and my mom is black, and every day I thank the Lord I don't got to pull out my ancestry or my 23andMe or family pictures to prove that I'm black, because some of y'all be out here fighting for your lives. So we then see a scene with Candace and Leah in the bathroom. I think Candace was like touching up on her makeup or something. And Leah saying, how do I move forward? Like, Giselle has said far worse things than me saying somebody's story was boring, which is not a lie because Giselle walking up to Mia, even though she is not my cup of tea, and saying, is this what not cancer looks like? Giselle has the audacity and she is too comfortable because had it been a different show, and I'm not even talking about Atlanta, had that been any of these other shows, sis would have got a pop in the mouth or a glass of water thrown in her face, because to have that type of audacity and boldness inside you, girl, you got to pipe that all the way down. So Candace is like, yeah, Leah, don't let them bully you. And y'all know I like Candace, but my thing is I don't like when people use words out of context. I think Candace is projecting because she has been bullied versus like what Leah has gone through. In all honesty, Leah is obnoxious and rude. Sometimes it's enjoyable, sometimes not. And what she did to Alexia to me was obnoxious and rude, mainly because yes, her story is boring. Yes, the story is tired and it's redundant, and we've heard it like in 3 seasons. We've heard it on season 4 of Miami, 5, and now Ultimate Girls Trip. But it wasn't like other people didn't prompt her for Alexia to tell her story. Giselle actively was listening, so was Heather. So it's like for you to be like, oh, this is boring, you come off like a jerk. And you did. And them checking her about what she did isn't bullying. She was wrong and she got checked. Now, to continue to do it, possibly, but it's not the same thing, Candace. And I feel like Candace is projecting because Leah did one wrong thing and then everybody jumped down her throat, and Candace is used to people doing that to her, especially in the Potomac fandom. And like I've told y'all, I've seen it in real time with my own eyes of her just being like, good morning, y'all, or I hope everyone's having a good day, and someone going in the comments saying like, oh, I hope you get punched in the face today with your slick mouth. Like, especially when she was sharing her fertility, like, not fertility, but like her journey to motherhood, people were like, yeah, I hope you're barren. I hope you don't have any kids because you don't deserve them. I hope I hope you have a miscarriage. I saw people actively saying that to her, with her expressing her feelings about her motherhood journey. And I feel like Candace just saw Leah do one thing that was wrong, and she just feels like y'all not gonna bully her the way I feel like I've been bullied. But I don't think Leah is being bullied, in all honesty. All right, so the next few scenes we see is the ladies getting ready for the day and eating breakfast together. And while I think at the table we end up seeing it was Marisol, Alexia, Leah, and Heather. And Leah asks Heather, like, how are you doing with everything that's going on with you and your cousin? Like, do you think you guys will be okay? And Heather was like, I can compartmentalize and like we can have a good time on this trip and I not bring up our issues. But then when we get back to Salt Lake, it is what it is. And she was like, she gets like, Heather's whole thing is like, girl, you said you wanted to move on, but you're doing things to hurt me. Like, you were about to show Giselle and not Robin, Giselle and Portia, my black eye to buddy up to them. You admitted that you purposely did that whole Lisa thing because y'all are on a TV show. So it's like you're doing these things to like make me look bad. You're saying that like my book is full of lies and that I'm not really a bad Mormon. So Leah interjects and she's like, no, she never said you were lying. She just said that like I should watch out for you. And that gets on Heather's nerves because she was like, why are you telling people to watch out for me? Like what kind of stuff is that? And while that conversation is happening, we see Lisa Barlow on FaceTime with Whitney. And Whitney pretty much is telling Lisa what's been going on since they got there, since day one. And she's like, I took on a lot of Heather's beef because she was the one who put my name in the hat for the people to look at me like I was beefing with you for no real reason. And it's like, you had a reason, sis. You had a reason because once Lisa found out about how you got with your husband and the infidelity and how you were casted out by your church, Lisa was mean to you. Lisa looked down upon you, and now because Lisa didn't have nobody because of the way she disrespected her best friend, aka Meredith, with that stupid staged practice hot mic moment, um she needed allies, so she was being kind towards you. And Whitney is just stupid. And so she's like, yeah, Heather's trying to say that I'm a liar. And she's like, she's trying to like tell people our story. And Lisa's like, that's why I told you to like not let her narrate for you, Whitney. I told you not to let her narrate for you. You need to stand up for yourself. And Whitney's like, yeah, I am. And I'm like, Whitney, girl, go on somewhere. Go on somewhere. Get away from me, Apollo. Go on away from me with this. So we then see Portia and Heather having a conversation at the table. Everyone's getting ready for their Thai massages. We see the masseuses outside putting up the tables. And Portia's like, do you think you and her could ever like get cool again? And she was like, I don't know. Heather's like, I feel like we're at the point where we might be too far gone. And Portia's like, no, family can always get back together. That's a lie. And so she was like, yeah, y'all can work past this. Y'all definitely can work past this. And she was like, but what about this registry? And Heather pretty much says, like, my name's on it. Because I think Portia asked, like, are you actively working to get off of it? And Heather was like, not really. But I don't practice Mormonism. And Portia's confused because she's like, girl, one minute you were upset saying that you are trying to get your name off of it. Now you're saying you're not trying to get your name off of it. Like, what's good? What's tea, bro? Like, what's going on? And my thing is, like, I feel like it's easier for us to say that, to be like, oh, if you don't want to be a part of this religion anymore, just, back away from it, or like, drop it all in its entirety. But when your whole life in the community and the state that you live in is like, that's a heavy part of it, that's a very big that's a very big choice to make. Because like, you have to think about the way that you're isolating yourself, because isolation can kill. Like, we like try to act like, oh, I love being by myself, and some people do when it's a choice. It's different when you're forced into it. It's when it's a choice where it's just like, yeah, I like to hang out by myself, but I can call my friends to come and get me and we can kick it, versus like, nobody will speak to me, no one is talking to me because I have decided not to be a part of this community anymore. It's a hard decision to make. So I feel like people should give Heather grace, but I also understand people being like, girl, why are you writing a book about being a bad Mormon when you still a Mormon? But in that regard, she is a bad Mormon, because she be drunk. The way they show themselves on Salt Lake City is totally different from what I have learned what Mormonism is, and how much those people are conservative and how they don't do certain things. So she is a bad Mormon, but she do need to get her name off of that if that is going to be her personality, that she is no longer a Mormon or that she is a bad Mormon. So the ladies get their massages and everyone's being weird. Giselle making noises, Marisol making noises, Heather making noises, Leah was making noises. Like, Portia wanted to be naked, which isn't uncommon when you get a massage. Candace is like, girl, are we getting massages or are we in a bathhouse? It was just a lot going on. And I was with Alexia when she was like, I couldn't get comfortable. It was too many sounds. Too many sounds. So they end up sitting, after the massages, they end up going to do the actual Thai barbecue. And basically it's similar, probably the same thing as Korean barbecue, just different types of meat flavors. But at a Korean barbecue, and I need to see if we have a Thai barbecue, because I didn't know that's how they did it. You pretty much can pick the meat you want and it will be like marinated, and then you cook it and they'll give you a whole bunch of sides and you just sit there and eat until your heart's content. I love me a good barbecue. So everyone is just kind of like, we got to cook it. And they're like, yeah. So while they're cooking and they end up sitting down eating, everyone's enjoying the food. Candace creates a huge triangle out of her napkin, and we know she about to get emotional when she does that. And she basically brings up to Portia how she did not like how Portia was a part of the onslaught of people who verbally annihilated her online, who were honestly like harassing her, feeding into this narrative that she hit Monique in the face with a glass. And they even proved that Monique lied about that because they showed how the fight initially started with Monique touching that girl's hair and doing all that extra stuff. And then the fight got to going. And she was like, it's not fair that you like lied on me pretty much. And they show scenes of the group chat where Portia ends up saying, well, Monique told me that Candace was suing her to get a down payment on her house. And Candace is like, it's not fair that I wasn't given the opportunity to give a statement. And Giselle chimes in, but she was like, but Candace, I defended you the whole time I was on the show. And Candace like, yeah, that's cool. That's cool and whatever. But like, sis, I still feel like I should have been able to give a statement. And even Whitney was like, got what Candace was saying, because I saw a lot of people saying that Candace wasn't making sense, but she made sense to me. I don't think she was discrediting what Giselle said. Or what Giselle did for her, but I think she wanted the opportunity to say something herself on a large platform. And we not gonna act like because Portia is one of the fan favorites and she's on a show that gets more visibility than Potomac, which is Atlanta, that people weren't gonna take Portia's word and run with it. It's like that Spider-Man statement. With great power comes great responsibility. Portia knew what she was doing. Portia knows that like her opinion and other people who are very popular, that their opinion of certain things can sway the tide of certain people. So like she knew what she was doing by saying like, yeah, girl, I heard. Like Monique said she's suing her, and Giselle had to tell her like, that's not true. That's not true. And Giselle being so quick to be like, I'm done with Candace. She gonna take what I did and not say it mattered. I was like, she never said that, Giselle. You starting to lie to yourself. She pretty much said that like I wanted to say something for myself too. And I feel as though Giselle just trying to find a reason not to mess with Candace. Cause you just said that last episode that the girl is a reactor. And you're trying to get a reaction out of her. And she's not giving it to you because there was no need for you to be like, Candace, that's BS. And it's not. Like, I don't even think the girl was saying you didn't, like, it just didn't make sense to me. It didn't make sense to me. And the fact that Whitney was like, no, I get what she's saying, lets me know that I feel like y'all were purposely missing the point just to argue. And then the fact that Portia said, like, I'm a journalist. And I had journalism jobs. And I'm like, no, sis, you had commentary jobs. There's a difference. There's a huge difference. And then when Candace said her thing, I was like, yeah, in order to be considered a journalist, you need to complete 4 years at an accredited college. Like, y'all don't be making sense. And Portia negated saying I'm a journalist by saying, like, I was just repeating what was told to me. If you were a real journalist that had integrity, big word, big energy, integrity, then you would have never said what Monique said to you unless you had actual proof from Monique, and you didn't. You just wanted to be messy because you knew everybody didn't like Candace and you wanted the opportunity to get at her, and you did it. So just own it. So then Candace is like, you know what, I'm done with this conversation. We can move on. And Portia is visibly like taking it back because she didn't think Candace was going to be like, yeah, I'm done with this. Marisol ends up breaking up the tension in the table, being like, girl, it was just a fluff show. And Portia and Giselle are like, what? And I was like, it was. No one talks about that show like it had any substance, lady. Neither one of y'all. The show was a pandemic show, and we let y'all have it because we were all trapped in the house and we needed something to do. So let's not. So they start playing Portia's games. The first game they play is like a tie game that's similar to volleyball in America. and they all had on like inflatable elephant suits. It seemed fun. Everybody was kind of like felt like Portia was being shady because they separated the groups by the states that they came from, and she was like, "Oh, Leah, we should have a team name since we don't have like we can't be called Potomac, Miami, or Salt Lake. Why don't we go like by Poor Leah?" And everyone was like, "Ooh." And Leah caught the shade. Portia's team ended up winning. It was her, Leah, and I think just not what was her name? Marisol and Alexia. The next game was like where the person was standing behind another person who was sitting down at the table, and they were like feeding themselves with fake hands. That game looked gross to me. Worse than the ones of them eating scorpions, mainly because everybody looked like they wanted to vomit afterwards. And I was like, yeah, I'd have told them no. So the last game they play is like Spew It or Chew It. Pretty much similar to Truth or Dare when you play with your friends and y'all just trying to get drunk. You either dare somebody to do something or they decide to do truth and you take a shot. Or is that another game? That might be another game. But they had scorpions instead, like fried scorpions. So the first question Portia asked was to Alexia, where she said, "Who is better in bed?" And out of all your husbands. And she said the order I thought she was gonna say: Todd, her baby daddy, and then what's it called? Herman. And she was like, I normally don't be talking about my mans because that means y'all gonna want to mess with them. And I laughed because like some people are like, oh my gosh, no girl. But then I've actually met people like that who the moment you start talking about good things that your partner does for you, all of a sudden they want to be all up in your partner's face. So the next person was Candace. I think she asked, Portia asked Candace, would you F, marry, kill Monique? And Candace said, I would bang her to death. They then get to Giselle, where they were like, who do you think would have the worst OnlyFans? And she said Marisol because she was like, I don't think Marisol would know how to like work it. And Marisol was like, girl, my feet. These people would love my feet. It was a funny moment. So they then start getting to where people started eating the scorpions. So then they asked Leah, because they're doing the Legacy show for New York, who would she not want back for the legacy show? And she said nothing. Leah grabbed a scorpion and everyone's like, girl, no. But she did it anyway and she ate one. Then she went to Whitney and she was like, Whitney, tell us 3 lies that Heather has told us since we've been here. Whitney was like, oh girl, no. She was like, why would you ask me that? And I'm like, girl, either answer it or eat the scorpion. So Whitney eats the scorpion because she's like, we're trying to, what's it called? What'd she say? She was like, we're trying to move forward. And Heather's like, no, you can say it because I haven't lied. So she eats the scorpion. Then they get to Heather. And I think she was like the last question. And they pretty much are like, do you know who gave you the black eye or who gave you the black eye? And Heather decides to eat the scorpion. So everyone's like, we all think Jen did it. And she was like, I'm not going to say. Honestly, I don't think Heather really knows who popped her in the face or if she did it to herself. Because I feel like at this point, say what it is and move on from it. But I think she genuinely doesn't know, but she probably feels like Jen did hit her, but she doesn't want to believe it because this constant back and forth of like, who gave you the black eye? At this point, I don't care who knocked you in the face. It seems like you was drunk and you knocked yourself in the face. So we move on from that and pretty much, no. The last question was, what's her name? Was Marisol, where Portia said, who do you trust the least? And Marisol said, Leah, because you done threw me under the bus like 3 times. You talked about my drinking. You exposed the text messages. And Leah's like, well, it's mutual because I don't trust Marisol either. And I'm like, girl, okay. But at least she said it with no hesitation. So we move on to the Mardi Gras night. are getting ready for Mardi Gras night, and you can already see the tension brewing between Alexia and Marisol, mainly because Marisol don't feel good, and she's like wants to be in her own space. They're the only ones sharing a room, so she's just kind of like over it. On top of that, she don't like I said, she don't feel good, and they just in on each other's space. They also are like, they've been asking Pepsi to get somebody up to clean their like room, but no one has done it. So I think she's just annoyed right now. But I ain't like Marisol saying stuff about my Pepsi. Pepsi seemed cool. So get it together, Marisol. They all pile into the sprinters and their Mardi Gras mask and all that stuff. You have the Miami girls, Portia and Giselle, in a car. Then you have the Salt Lake City girls, Leah and Candace, in the other sprinter. And basically in the Miami car, you have Portia saying, I just think Candace wants an issue with us, and there's no issue pertaining to Giselle. And Giselle pretty much said, like, I should be more mad at Candace after she said that I said that her man tried to, SA. And Alexia's like, yo, that's a serious allegation. And she's like, yeah. And Portia's like, see, she's trying to demean your character. And I was like, you would know, Portia, because you've done it to other people. And my thing is like, I took away from that conversation is Giselle knows she was wrong. Because the fact that she didn't want to like lay it all out there, and she's had 2 times to do it, and this time she had it in a like control environment where she was in the car full of people who probably would be on her side, versus when they were all on that boat and everybody was going off on each other, and you were like, and you never elaborated on it, makes me feel like you were wrong. And I feel like the thing is, Giselle is a co-worker. Like, she comes to work, she shows up, but she's not being her genuine self. This Mardi Gras party didn't make any sense to me, mainly because I'm like, we only saw you go down to Louisiana once, and that was in like I think season 3 or 4. Other than that, we have yet to hear you ever mention about spending the summers in Louisiana and how much Louisiana played a big role in your life. The fact that we don't know these things and that we just found out you had a sister, you don't take this job that serious. Whereas you have Candace, who is like, I'm going to be true to who I am. I'm going to build real connections with these people. So I think Giselle thought that Candace wouldn't have been that angry with her after she did what she did, or this whole storyline about her husband making her feel uncomfortable wouldn't have took the route that it took. Because at the end of the day, all Giselle had to do was apologize and be like, maybe it was something about me. Because there's nothing wrong with you feeling uncomfortable because of a situation. But when people ask you like, hey, did this person touch you? You say no. Did this person say something inappropriate to you? You said no. Did they gesture towards you? No. You said when the door was open and you told him to leave, he left. So it's like, then you're the one that had the issue. If the man never came near you, touched you, said anything vulgar, or made any innuendos towards you, that was a you problem, and you were the one that felt uncomfortable. And I just think Giselle lacks self-reflection in order to just be like, you know what, I was uncomfortable and I went about this the wrong way, and I'm sorry. Because that's all she had to do. And Candace and Chris would have been like, I bet, and we could have moved on from this. But you ain't want to do that. So they get to the restaurant. The food looked good, but like I said, we don't really know Giselle like that for her to bring this up. It's different from Alexia and Marisol, where it's like they talk about being Cuban because that is a part of their identity. Where it's like, okay, we know your family came from Louisiana, but like you never speak about it other than that one time y'all went down to Louisiana. So what was the point of this? So they play the reasonably shady game like they played on season 6. It got a little hot and heavy, especially when they tried to confront Alexia about saying that she paved the way for the other shows, such as like Salt Lake City and Potomac. And I think the thing about it is, I get where Alexia is saying, like, you know what, we came back, but it's also kind of read on yourself because nobody else's show got canceled other than Dallas. And I don't think Dallas is coming back. But I don't think it's also wrong for Alexia to be like happy that, well, we came back and we doing better than y'all. We making way more views than y'all. You know what I'm saying? So I just feel like, yeah, girl, that was a miss for you. They all said that was kind of shady. Some people said reasonable. Then get on the topic of bullies, where Candace and Leah are pretty much saying that Portia and Giselle have been bullying Leah. And this didn't make sense to me. Like I said before, I don't think Leah is getting bullied. I think Candace is projecting. And I think Portia has a right to be like, I don't want that label on me and things of that nature. I just feel like Candace is taking on someone else's fight when she doesn't really have to, because this is a Leah and Portia issue and Giselle issue, not a Leah, Candace, Portia, Giselle problem, in my opinion. If I was Candace, I would just back out. And Candace saying hit dogs were hollering, I was like, no, in this instance, they have a right to defend themselves. Like, I wouldn't want that label either, especially if the tactics that you're saying that you're associating me with, I'm not doing. So it starts to rain. I think, or the rain got harder. I don't know. Either way, they couldn't sit at the table to eat. And that's when they started playing the reasonably shady game. The conversation kind of ends there before they start talking about the Mormon thing. And everyone's kind of over the whole Mormon conversation. But I did agree with Whitney when Whitney was like, they're giving up so much once you take your name off that registry. And I think it's, like I said before, I think it's easier for us to say, like, you should take your name off of this registry, when at the end of the day, we're not the ones who will be isolated from their community and family. Like, and Alexia understood where she's like, you know, that's like when you're in a divorce, but you ain't signed the paperwork yet. Like, you're done. And you're just waiting to sign the paperwork. So she was like, I get what you're saying, Heather. And I got that. I just think that Heather can't say, and like I said before, you can't make like I'm a bad Mormon as your like personality type and not follow all the way through. Sis, you're going to have to follow all the way through. Everyone piles into the cars after they do the second line, and everyone's kind of like, I don't get how Whitney and Heather can argue with each other 1 minute and then get in the car and act like nothing has happened. But Whitney, to me, proved that she is fake and two-faced, because we immediately see her go into the confessional room and pretty much out all the lies that she feels as Heather has told everyone. That one, that she's trying to get her name off the registry. I think 2 was that she has ever been friends with Lisa, where that was mainly Heather's thing. Season 1 was like her and Lisa were cool at school, and Lisa kind of played her to the left. And I forgot what the third one was. And then Whitney was going to be like, the masks are coming off. It's like, Whitney, this is why people don't like you. But yeah, y'all, that is it. That is all. Remember to be bravely authentic. Hop down in them comments below. Make sure you subscribe if you would like to. And have a nice day.